been about 10 years, 8 years now since Mega Man 10 came out. I'm extremely happy to play Mega Man 11. But what was the moment that made this the time to start the next Mega Man game?
So there's two big reasons why it worked out and we're able to release a brand new Mega Man. First off was the fact that it's the Mega Man 30th anniversary, and we wanted to do as much as we could to honor that. The other reason is for me, I wanted to create a new Mega Man, but I felt like there wasn't. I wanted a veteran creator to kind of step up to the plate and say like, hey, I want to make a new Mega Man. Like, I want to make this happen. And because it's such a long-running franchise, I felt like I needed someone that I could trust. I didn't want just anybody just coming up and being like, I can do it. And around that time, Director Oda came up and he said, now's the time. Let's make a new Mega Man game. And all lined up, and that's why we're able to develop Mega Man 11.
Having been a while since not just Mega Man 11 or Mega Man 10, but since any games in the franchise were developed, what was the process of getting the institutional knowledge where we felt like we could make Mega Man 11? Because I played the collection almost all the way through on the plane, and this feels like a really tight evolution of that. Was there a research process or a learning process of getting up to speed on that, or did it just feel natural returning to that franchise and building a new one even after so much time?
When the two of us decided to set forth and create a brand new Mega Man game, as you said, we did do a fair amount of research. We knew that the Mega Man franchise is most popular in the West, so we did a lot of research to figure out what are people saying about the franchise right now, like what kind of Mega Man game would they like to see, and on top of that we wanted to also see what people who were familiar with the franchise but never touched a Mega Man game, like what are those people saying about it, what kind of impression do they have of it. So we wanted to kind of test the waters and see what people were actually saying. So we did a fair amount of research from then on. So after all of that, we kind of sat down and from there, having taken all of that like consumer commentary and feedback, we set out and took a lot of time to figure out like, okay, like this is what people are saying, this is what people want. What do we want to make that would satisfy that consumer base?
During that process of figuring out what the consumers, especially the ones who weren't experienced with the franchise, wanted or thought of the franchise, is there anything that stuck out to you that perhaps was surprising, that was not expected coming out of it?
There were definitely a lot of points that surprised us. One of the things that really surprised me was the fact that how well the fans understood like the details of the game and like the intricate game mechanics, and it was just nice to see just how well the fans like really dug deep and like understood everything about it, and that was really cool to see. And I think one of the big takeaways from that was the fact that like these guys don't want to see like a dramatic change. They want to see something that stays true to what the franchise represents. So that was a big takeaway for me. And then Oda-san was saying, for me it wasn't so much a surprise, more of a realization. And the realization was that because a brand new Mega Man game hadn't come out for so long, just kind of looking at the fans and what their commentary was, and it was this strange feeling of them protecting Mega Man from us probably because we hadn't created a new Mega Man game in so long. So that was really interesting to kind of see that feedback.
I'm struggling for a follow-up to that one. I guess I'll get into the game a bit now. One of the things that I walked away from the demo, so the first time I played it, I forgot the gears were there, the speed gear and the power gear, and I just didn't use them. And I found that a lot of the timing platforming, especially in the Brickman stage, was incredibly intricate in ways that maybe even would be a lot by some of the earlier Mega Man games that have, for lack of a better word, a more cheap deaths involved in them. But using those gears, it started to feel very natural once I remembered they were there and forced myself to use them. And it felt very, very, like the stages were very much designed to tutorialize how to use those things and to make good use of them. How was integrating a mechanic that slows the game down or makes Mega Man dramatically stronger, how has that been integrated into the level design and I guess probably the boss encounter design as well?
そうですね、当然意識はしましたね。ただまあ我々も
From the get-go, we were definitely aware of the fact that by implementing this double gear system, that it would definitely affect the way that the stages would be designed. But because it's a new system and we have absolutely no prior knowledge of how it would affect it, what we did was we built the stages from more of a classical standpoint, where it's like, okay, this is what a classical Mega Man stage would look like. And then as we played through it and we figured out like, oh, this would be a good place to utilize the double gear system. This would be like a cool way of handling this this moment in time. And so we would kind of fine tune it that way. And then on top of that, when you use the power gear, you're able to power up the boss weapons. And so that adds an extra layer that affected the stage design as well. And so it was a pretty arduous process of kind of taking what's there, adding an additional thing, seeing how it affected everything, and then fine-tuning that and finding a good balance for everything. So yeah, it was a bit of a painstaking process to figure that all out.
I was curious, I think you guys have spoken publicly a bit about the sound effects and the music. Especially for the sound effects, I think a lot of it's not completely digital. You were recording using real-world sounds, I guess like Foley art. I guess if you could speak about the decision to use real-world sounds to create the effects, and also just about the music a little bit, if you could talk a little bit about the music.
In terms of the sound effects, we definitely wanted to make sure that it matched those modern visuals, but at the same time we wanted to like make sure that like, oh, you know, the sounds are appropriate to that setting. So it was a mix of like, okay, this is the type of sound effect that would feel right for this instance, and this is like, we should keep these Mega Man sound effects for like these instances because otherwise it just wouldn't feel like Mega Man. So that was kind of the approach that we took with the sound effects. For the music itself, we very much kind of had this, we were very conscious of the fact that the music is just as important as the gameplay for the Mega Man franchise. And so we experimented a little bit initially, where because the visuals have been modernized, we initially took an approach where like, okay, let's modernize the music. Let's try to make like a different style of music here, where I asked the composer to create a much longer piece, and when we dropped that into the game, however, and we matched up with the gameplay, we realized like this doesn't feel right. Like something's off. It doesn't feel like Mega Man. So we scrapped that idea and we went back to the drawing board, and we realized like, you know, what makes Mega Man music great is the fact that it's memorable. You can hum it. So we wanted to go back to those roots, make it more compact. And try to make it as memorable and catchy as possible. So that was something that I worked with the composer on, and there was definitely a lot of pressure there, but I feel like we were able to create a soundtrack that's very, very catchy. And obviously, we can't show you right now, but I hope you look forward to it.
Kind of building on the how the music and sound effects were evolved. This is the first time that there's been any kind of major revision into the appearance of the Mega Man character itself since, I would guess, the PlayStation era, probably 95, 94, somewhere in there. It's not huge changes, but obviously they're noticeable. What was the process of refining and evolving how that character should look in 2018, considering it's been at least 20 years since that process has gone through?
So Mega Man, I think, traditionally has always considered very much a 2D character, but I felt that I think with the absence of a brand new Mega Man game, I felt like the franchise kind of stopped evolving. It kind of stayed retro. It stayed static. And I think that's something that would continue to appeal to diehard fans, but then you're going to run into fatigue where you're not bringing in new people, you're not, the brand itself is growing stale, and that's just not healthy whatsoever. So in terms of the art style and the visual look, that's something that we wanted to kind of modernize and make sure that like the overall feel and the visuals fit something that modern gamers would be able to easily accept and appreciate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.